We're not talking about a book at all. We're talking about Dune again because
Dude.
I don't remember. Do you guys remember how many times I had seen it when we reviewed it?
Yeah.
Three times?
You had seen it 3 times. You're going for a fourth, and your mom
Okay.
was making fun.
Okay. Well, I'm still at 3. I'm
Okay.
seeing it for the 4th time this weekend.
Okay.
Why?
Did you see it with your mom yet?
I did. Yeah. That was the
Okay.
third.
That was the okay.
That was the third rewatch. Will, did you say why?
Yeah.
Because it's the best movie that's come out in, like, I don't know, since Blade Runner 2049. Like,
Since the first Venom movie.
stop it. Stop.
Go get him. It's Venom.
So essentially the reason I want to keep talking about Dune is because it's so good. And it's so good for cinema. Like, it's so nice to see quality content back in theaters. And actually, one of the main things that made me want to talk about it again was our good friend Ochi, friend of the show, was like, they took it out of IMAX. I was like, what? What'd they put in? And he's like, Marvel Eternals. I was like, who is trying to see Marvel Eternals in theaters to begin with over Dune and an IMAX? Like, unbelievable. I'm just so sick of Disney, like, just making mediocrity and being praised for it as if it's like, oh wow, the MCU is like never before seen. It's decent, but like Dune is like such a rare 9 out of 10, 9.5 out of 10 film. Like, so why is it good for sci-fi and cinema? Because it sets the bar for what is quality content. Like, now anything we get in the Duneverse, which will certainly be a thing, the bar has been set for like the quality of the cinematography, the music, the acting, the script, like everything has been set at that level. And anything that's below it, people will be like, that's not Denis' vision. Like, that's not quite. And so Denis got his second movie. He wants to make a trilogy. And on IMDb, he has a project in the works called Dune: The Sisterhood, which is a TV show that is said to follow the story of the Bene Gesserit.
Interesting.
I know nothing about it except for that it is on his upcoming IMDb credits, which just makes me so excited. And what I really hope for is that he will be allowed to film movies 2 and 3 at the same time, because he wanted to film part 1 and part 2 at the same time, just like how they did Lord of the Rings. But because Blade Runner was such a box office flop, they didn't let him like use that budget and like give him that much money to work with. But then, what was it, 5 days after the theatrical release of Dune, part 2 was announced, I think.
Right.
Like, Dune was the most successful ever theater and HBO Max release that they've ever done.
Oh God.
Because Dune,
that makes sense. Yeah.
like, Dune came out on HBO Max the day it came out in theaters in the States. And it still did like 40 million domestic that first weekend in the States, which is like Marvel Eternals, which is only in theaters, did 70.
Yeah. So like it's weird hearing box office numbers now opposed to,
Before, yeah.
Like 40 million opening weekend is a massive failure pre-pandemic. Now it's pretty fucking good.
Yeah, not only is it's good for the pandemic, and it's because it came out in theaters, and that's domestic box office. Like, that's US only.
Yeah, and a movie like Dune, I think, would carry legs places all over the world, I guess I should say.
Yeah. And like, this guy, like, Denis just does sci-fi so well. Like, Arrival, Blade Runner, Dune. I don't know. Have you guys seen the original Blade Runner?
Yes.
Like, how would you compare 2049 versus the original?
Oh, a great question. I think if you're a fan of 2049 and haven't seen the original, it's not a 1-for-1. You'll definitely enjoy this. But I do think what Denis Villeneuve did that was similar to the original is that the same questions sort of get asked, albeit in very different ways. But it's still like you leave the original Blade Runner the same way you left 2049, which is with more questions and not really answers. And that's not really the point of Blade Runner. It's not like setting up this mystery so that you're like, what happened? Like, the endings are sort of ambiguous, but I think it's more so like the philosophical questions that you sort of leave there with and think about. But I do think like the first one, just because of the time it was made in 82, it's like some of the things that Villeneuve was able to pull off are impressive because of technology.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, he was the director, so certainly his success. But, you know, it's just they're very much different. But I don't think if you love 2049, it doesn't mean you would love the original. And I know people who love the original who aren't fans of 2049, which personally I think is ridiculous. But I saw the original first and was like, I can see why this is revered. Although it's not my favorite, there are certainly things I love about it. And I love the questions I'm asking about it. And 2049 was sort of like a modern version for myself, which I think is superior to the original. In every way. The original is good, so is 2049, and it's technologically more advanced.
Right.
Yeah.
How about you, Will? Have you seen the original Blade Runner?
Yeah, actually, I just bought it on Blu-ray not too long ago.
Okay.
Wait, but I also have to say the only version of the original I've seen is the fucking, I don't even know. There's like 7 different versions of that.
Yeah.
So it's not the director's cut. It's actually called like the final cut.
Okay.
Yeah, I
So
the director's cut is like the best.
The director's cut is actually not the director's cut. It's like it's like a version of the film the studio put out and named the director's cut, but it's not actually why am I forgetting his name? You know, alien guy. Fucking Ridley Scott. It's not his total vision. Yeah, so which is shitty, but like the final cut apparently is. And so like I don't know, it depends, like the version of the film you see would definitely affect how you feel about that film.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's the final cut. I don't know. I just saw it like in a bargain bin for like $3, $2 or $3. So I copped it, but I haven't like seen the OG one since I was like a kid. I did like 2049 though. Yeah. Giants neon waifu in the rain. Yes.
That was a great scene though. Like, from what I've heard is like a lot of reviews being like the people that like the original a lot more is more from nostalgia rather than like you can say that it's objectively a better movie. But I think like the sci-fi elements of Blade Runner that carry into Dune, like they're so strong. Like there's just something about the visual appeal of his movies that like he just does sci-fi so well, and like he can do any of the genre, like any subgenre of sci-fi, like the rival Blade Runner and Dune. They're all very different within sci-fi, but they'll like they have that like. There was an interesting. I was listening to Denis and Hans Zimmer talk about making Dune, and Hans Zimmer says something interesting where like for some reason, even though sci-fi always portrays like a future, good sci-fi tends to have like a very nostalgic feeling to it.
Yeah, like retro futuristic.
Yeah, like it just makes you feel like a certain level of nostalgia for some weird reason, even though like technology's advances, like through that lens of futurism, you can sort of appreciate like the humanity of it. There's like just something there that like only sci-fi has that feeling, really, like because it takes you out of the reality of our world and it like just shows you this like alternate possibility. I just think that feeling comes through so well in Dune. And another reason so good, the adaptation. Like you can just feel how like much work went into trying to adapt the source material, like with actual effort and love towards it. Where like
it's sort of like we're making the movie of this book, not we're using this book to create a movie.
Exactly.
Which is, I feel like a lot of adaptation is the latter.
Yeah.
Like people really like this. We should make a movie out of it.
We should make Aragon into a movie. We should make Percy
Uncharted.
Jackson into a movie. We should make Uncharted into a movie. Assassin's Creed, you know, like
I think too, like any video game movie, like maybe with the exception of Detective Pikachu, which isn't
and Doom, the first Doom movie. Love it with The Rock, Carl Urban.
I've actually never seen it. Man, Carl Urban, fucking sci-fi fantasy legend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to go back to something you said, Luca, about
Yep.
Villeneuve and how he does science fiction. I heard something on a different podcast I was listening to where like sci-fi and fantasy, and we talk about this a lot, especially when we do like book reviews and stuff. Um, it's going somewhere else to learn about home.
Mhm.
Like that's why people are so drawn to it, because even though you're in these far-flung worlds or in the like the far future, there's still like a lesson you could learn about our real world in there. And I was speaking to a friend of mine over dinner about Arrival, and we were both like, "Dude, I cried." It's like I was bawling my eyes out. I was like, "I know, right?" And I think like even that scene with the giant joy in Blade Runner, parts of Dune as well. They're less nuanced to me because I've only seen it the one time, so I got to sort of live with it a little bit more. But there's parts in Arrival and 2049 to me where it's like they say so much about humanity while being these like high concept fantasy things, like the idea of like traveling through time and experiencing things both in the present and the future and the past, and sort of having that like that concept in Arrival, and what you find out what that means to that specific character is such a human feeling to it.
Mhm.
Dealing with grief and loss and like going through all of it again type of thing. And then in 2049, like that scene where the carbon copy of Joy is like reaching out to him, and that's sort of where he's like reconciling his identity, and everything sort of clicks into place there. It's like very like that scene is so powerful, even though it's like a beautiful sci-fi hologram scene. It's like very I don't know, this like sort of speaks to like the human experience.
Mhm.
I think that's what Denny does that other directors and filmmakers don't get. A lot of like we were talking about Star Wars too, where like some people might just go because like it's fucking cool.
Mhm.
Like spaceships are cool. Like we all agree on this, but like
Yeah.
it's like what does making a spaceship that does such and such say about us as humans? Because we're all really sort of translating everything back to how we perceive it. So
Mhm.
I think that's the one area like he doesn't lose that as these worlds become more epic and like
Yeah. And that's exactly why I was so happy watching Dune. Like seeing a movie that's like fantastic and big and expensive and visually stunning, but like grounded in human emotion. And it's not just another Marvel movie like selling you on a sky beam and like superheroes flying and like it's just so played out, and it cheapens the entire genre. Like I'm just so happy that this movie came out the way it did. It's like Blade Runner could have been that if they had marketed it correctly. Like they flopped on marketing it for sure, because
yeah,
it could have.
Yeah,
I think the problem they did was like they thought the original held more weight
Yeah.
in like the general audience, and
Yeah.
even like to this day, both films now are obscure films.
Mhm.
Like people within this community surely know about them, but like it's not like I remember I went there and there was like a couple who was like, "Which movie should we see?" And me and Sharif are like, "Oh, we're going to 2049. Like, check it out." Like, yeah, I think I've heard of Blade Runner before. And they were like, at the end of the movie, they were like, "Yo, what the fuck?" Like, it's like they wanted like the Marvel movie experience sort of thing, and it was very much not that.
Yeah,
Sorry, I cut you off there, Will.
Yeah, I was just about to say, like, the majority of people I know that went to go see it mostly thought it was like an action movie. I think that was also just because of like some of the trailers too as well. So
like we don't need that anymore. We've gotten the 15 16 Marvel movies. We'll get 15 more. We'll get 3 more Star Wars, hopefully, which will be better quality. Like they're rebooting Indiana Jones. I mean, they're doing all of these things. Like we just need the diamonds in the rough, because it is rough out there, man. Like it is.
I'm gonna push back a little bit because like I know you don't love Marvel films, and that's completely okay.
I don't I don't hate Marvel. Like I like them. I enjoyed them. I watched all of the Avengers in theaters except for Ultron. Like I've seen the movies. I haven't seen all of them. I admit I haven't seen all Marvel movies, but like I like them. I think they're good average movies. Like they were amazing when they started coming out, but it's like, okay, I get it. Like do something different now.
Yeah. I think it's sort of like almost like a TV show at this point, where it's like it's just the cultural thing. And I think that it sort of takes away from like how much work goes into those movies. And I think like the vast majority of them are like very well made films.
Absolutely.
But I agree that like some of the ground they cover in terms of story is very similar from film to film.
Mhm.
Like you're always, because it's always like a superhero origin story, you're always getting that sort of coming of age story. And after a while, you know, like you're saying, like the sky demons get sort of played out. I think DC's a lot worse for this, to be fair.
Mhm.
Like, oh, swirling mass in the sky, it's gonna destroy everything.
Yeah.
Terrible. But like it just feels like somebody wrote a superhero script once and Hollywood was like, that's the one.
Exactly.
Like, keep making that movie.
Yep.
But that being said, like movies like Shang-Chi that just came out, that's a super fucking good film.
Mhm.
And like it's so different from the Marvel movies in the ways that you want when you go to a new property, but it's the same in the comfortable, you know, like the humor of it and like the flow of the movie too. So like but that being said, like I wouldn't hold any Marvel movie to the same light I would hold up Dune.
Yeah.
Because I think not even that it's a better made film, but it has to say more. Whereas Marvel movies are entertainment, and you can get filmmakers who put, you know, whatever sort of allegorical thing they want to talk about in their film can slide in there. And you know, it those movies matter because like what happens in this one's going to matter in the next one and the next one.
Mhm.
You want to sort of be, you know, with everybody when you go to dinner and talking about the Marvel movies. But Dune, I think, is like really had something to say when you made it.
Yeah.
So like it's a little bit more important, I guess.
I think it's that like corporate hand that you feel in Marvel movies more often, especially in like the Star Wars 7, 8, 9. Like you could almost feel like just like a cold board of directors being like, oh yeah, like our statistics say this is popular, put this in it. Like it just feels like that.
Soccer ball.
Yeah.
Everyone loves soccer.
The most popular sport.
The space football.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about. Just how happy I am that Dune is what it is, and that it is a success, and that he's getting more films, and that it's getting attention. And like all the criticism I've seen, it was like, oh, Zendaya's not in it enough. Like, come on. Like, she'll be in the second one. Like they marketed it as if she's going to be like a main character, but like she'll be in the second one. Just like in chill.
The first half of the book either, though.
So I can sort of see both sides of this argument, and like you just saw, my initial reaction was sort of like exasperated, like but at the same time, when you market an actor of color being a main character, and then people show up for that, and then that's not in the film, that is a little bit problematic too. So like I can, but people approaching it from that way, like I totally can resonate with that, because like I imagine like if there was a film that was predominantly white people and they're like, look, we do have a black person in our film, and you show up and they're in the film for 5 seconds, you're sort of like, yo, what the fuck? It's sort of like,
yeah, but none of the marketing was based on race. Like people like her as a actress, you know, like she's a popular person, so they marketed it based on her name, which is like fine. So many movies do that. Like, yeah, I don't think it's so much like there's other like most of the supporting cast was actors of color. I mean, there was plenty of. I don't think it was like a racial thing, and like twisting it in that way is almost kind of like is like why do that? Like,
yeah, see, like, but to that point, like, I think if it wasn't an actor of color, you wouldn't have people being as upset, because I know, like, for me and like people I know, like when you go to see sci-fi or fantasy movies, it's rare that we're sort of represented in that way. So when you get a movie that's like, look, you're going to be, you know, you can see yourself in this movie too, and then it's not, it is sort of like deflating. And like I can see, like, you know, people being like, it's not all about race, but like sometimes when there's like things like this that happen, it's sort of just like, oh man, like you sort of got our hopes up a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. I can understand that, but it's like, she'll be in the second one. Relax. Yeah. She's a major character. Like, she will be all over that second movie, along with all the other Fremen, which is just like entirely like multiracial supporting cast. So yeah, like, you will get that. Like this was a slow build. Like I thought it was phenomenal. Like
I my sort of complaint is like I wish sort of marketing was aware, but like obviously when you have like such a household name like Zendaya, like you do want to plaster that on everything.
mhm.
But I wish they were sort of more sensitive to.
It's also possible they were like overcompensating because of the way they marketed Blade Runner, where it was like, we're just not even gonna like make commercials for it. And then now they're like, okay, well, let's just like shove all these famous people in your face, but like they're in it. Like, come watch this movie. And it worked. They watched it.
Yeah, which is kind of a gutsy move. If you they must have known that they were gonna get approved for a part 2. They had to have known because I don't know. Because like I mean, like her character, Zendaya's character, doesn't really show up.
Yeah, I mean, I think I read. It's funny because like the first time I watched it, and like afterwards I read the that comment, being like, "Where was the day?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" She was like, "All over that movie." But then like I later, it's because like the way it's spread out, like his visions of her are spread. I was like, "What do you mean?" She was like everywhere in that movie.
Those are my thoughts too. Yeah.
And then later I like read something where she was like, "Yeah, she had like 8 minutes of screen time." I was like, "Really?" Like,
yeah, okay. My sisters were actually telling me about this, and I was like, "Oh." Like you have to see the movie though, because just saying 7 minutes of screen time or whatever, it doesn't contextualize her role in the movie. But like I get it. But then I was like, yeah, Darth Vader was only on screen for 8 minutes in A New Hope. Like,
right.
You know, it doesn't take that much time to make a appearance or like pull off a role. Even like Dave Bautista in not only Dune, but in Blade Runner 2049 doesn't have that much screen time.
Yeah, he was in like 5 minutes of it, just the start of it.
Yeah, but like again, I understand both sides of the sort of.
I just think if that's your biggest criticism, that's a fantastic movie. Like